Well, welcome back, Marcel. I'm glad to see you. I
Thanks.
understand that you've been at school and life has been flooding in, and from what you've said is that you have neglected your meditation practice. Is that basically what?
Yeah, exactly. It faded out like in a 2 months period from, I don't know, 10 minutes a day to 0 minutes a day.
Yeah, the last time we talked was November something, so it's been just about 2 months,
Yeah, exactly.
7 weeks, something like that. Okay. Um, the interesting thing about anapanasati, especially the sati factor, is that we fail to do it when we need it most. And when you needed it most was doing your bachelor thesis and all of the stuff that piled on with that. That's a very interesting way for people to begin to look at it. Is that anapanasati actually is at its best when it is pull the emergency switch.
Hmm.
Okay, just when you need it most, that's the time to use it. And yet here you are telling me that when I needed anapanasati most, I decided to neglect it.
Yeah.
And go back to the old way of doing things because that's more reliable, or at least that's what our fallback position is. That in a way, that's what we're actually looking for, is to have a practice that is deep enough or strong enough or there enough so that it becomes the new fallback position when we're under attack.
Hmm.
Under
Okay.
attack means we get busy.
Yeah, sure.
We're attacked by all the stuff we're doing. Okay. And in the military idea that we need a fallback, we need an escape hatch, we need a way out. We're going in, we're going to do this thing, but we need a way out, right? And almost always for students of meditation, their first few years at least, their fallback position is always to go back to the old fallback position.
Yeah. It was like this searching for something but can't find it and trying to call people and then just lying in bed in self-pity and yeah.
Exactly. And one of the qualities of self pity, in fact, that's a good way of starting to look at this. Um, Self pity is a false compassion. It's not real.
Okay.
And that, in fact, it's not compassion. And that's why it's called pity. That, in fact, let us put it this way, there's a big you, an adult, and a little you, a kid. And the little kid is on the floor in a fetal position, hunched like that. And the big adult part of you is kicking that kid and then say, hurts, don't it? And that's the pity party.
Yeah, feels like it, yes.
Uh huh. It hurts, don't it? Right. And so that's the pity party, is look how bad you feel. Look what a massive state of suffering I've been able to create for you, except that both of these aspects are within your own mind. That is, in transaction analysis and psychology, these things are referred to as the parent and the child. And the parent is what we have in the mind that mimics our parents when we were little kids. We learned how to be bad people from our parents. We learned how to be bigots and racist from other adults, that kids by themselves are not normally racist, but they can be taught to be racist really easily.
Mm.
Okay, so, and what I mean by racist is anything that is not near me, everything that's far away is bad or wrong. In other words, it's a kind of criticism. Racism is just a form of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what we're doing is that we're criticizing. Like, I've got to get that thesis done. I've got to get this work done. That's the critical mind. And that, in fact, what we need from Anapanasati is to have, let us say, a few minutes a day, at least, if not a whole lot of it, of relaxation. That you're tense
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing your thesis, and when you walk away, when you're finally tired, you're still all tensed up, and you remain tense until you get back into writing the thesis, and then you're tense again, and it's just over and over and over again tension without taking the opportunity to relax.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and so, hence the pity party that you're talking about is that tension of laying in bed and feeling bad, when in fact you can lay in bed and say, wow, what a relief. I don't have to have that thesis right now. Everything is okay. Everything is nice. Got no problems. In other words, gladdening the mind, anapanasati. And why is it that we forget to do that? It's like starving and looking at food right in front of us and forget to eat it.
Yeah, the funny thing is the tension didn't even go away. Like I handed it in and I got a really good grade. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Back to tension.
Well, here's the way that tension operates is that we create and make it a habit.
Yeah, exactly. And the habit, like
And then
this
the, and
loser
then the
attitude
habit
habit.
is driving us, and then the habit is
Yeah.
what's driving us to get the work done. But when the work done, that drive, that tension and, that we have created and manufactured as a brand new habit is still there. The same thing happens with shopping. That if you need something, you go buy it at the store and you feel good about what you bought. But people will go on what they call a shopping spree. If I feel good with buying this, and let me buy something else and I'll feel good. And let me buy this and I'll feel something, because underlying that is I don't feel good enough. It's not actually that, oh, I want that. And if I get that thing, then my wants and desires will go away because I'll be satisfied. In fact, the habit of wanting is there. So we buy an item and it doesn't destroy the wanting. And so we want something else. And that doesn't destroy the wanting when we get it. And so we want something else. That in fact, this thesis is part of that tension or anxiety or drive for wanting something.
Yeah, makes sense.
And we need to take a time every day, more often than just once a day, often throughout the day, of relaxing to the point of everything's okay. Everything is fine right now. I will get this thesis done, and it will be a marvelous job because I'm such a good mood while I'm doing it. You hear all of that anapanasati, right?
Yeah.
Gladdening the mind. So, um, sati very much is like, I think I mentioned this to you before, but here's now a very clear example of it. Murphy's Law.
Yeah, you
You know
mentioned it.
Murphy's Law?
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Yes,
Yes.
this is it. This was Murphy's Law coming in, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it'll go wrong at the most possible moment. And what is going wrong? You let yourself get tense because of the thesis and all. And then you have a pity party. That's Murphy's law, is when things go wrong, but they do go wrong when there is stress or power, or he refers to it as the worst possible moment. And an example of that is, when does the new computer system fail for the hotel? On opening night, or on the night when it's first time that the hotel gets full? It's going to fail when it gets full.
Oh yeah, because it's the worst time.
When you need it most, when you really, really need that computer system, that's when it's going to fail. And so we have to plan on that happening. Plan with having extra or overcapacity. And in our regard, our extra or overcapacity that we need here would be two things. One would be sati, and the other is to remember, sati, to be joyful, that you can handle this. And we need to tell it.
That was first faded out. So like, I can handle this attitude, and like there was sometimes sati, and I just ignored it, and like this, this I can't do it, and all this stuff again just grew stronger, and then the habit of meditation or remembering faded out. Yeah.
So, what you're talking about doing is what every student does. This happens over and over. It happened many times with me. That is like our samadhi practice, or our meditation practice, or our anapanasati practice, whatever we're talking about it, comes in fits and starts. We'll have a fit, and then we'll start the anapanasati. And then later we'll have a fit, and then we start anapanasati again. Okay, so that's what we mean, is that we keep having a fit about something, that we get stressed with it, and that's exactly the time when we need anapanasati the most. So in fact, we could use it in the sense of an anchor. Whenever we feel fitful, whenever we feel like there's pressure, that should be the trigger. Oh, now is when I need anapanasati the most.
Yeah, it makes sense. Sure. Like, when I need it, I should do it, and not exactly the other way around.
Exactly the other way around is how we normally do things. And so we get ourselves stuck in a mess. Murphy comes in and destroys our system just when we need it the most. And so this is the way uh, of looking at it. But then we can say, okay, well, there's got to be some sort of antidote to that. And that is some other kind of anchor that we can use. And the anchor that I have found that is really brilliant, and so many students see what it's like, and that is, we've talked about it before. Now let's really get into it. I think we've talked about it before, and that is the chair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. If you had been practicing that so that you remembered every time that you sat down to do that bachelor's thesis, you'd have sat down and says, sitting down, that's when we do a big breath of anapanasati. Okay.
Yeah, what kind of bugs me about that is, I sometimes did, and then I took a deep breath, and then after that there was a thought, okay, now you took a deep breath and are still annoyed and tense and all this.
Taking a deep breath means really taking a deep breath to get rid of that, at least for this moment, that tension and annoyance. That you take a full moment to experience it, and then take a few deep breaths to let it dispel. so that you could come back to a state of homeostasis. Okay, so you actually need to do the full anapanasati cycle, I would say, of that deep breath and the equivalent gladdening the mind and telling yourself everything is okay, noticing the tension, breathe it out, and come to that state of well being that we talk about, sukha and piti.
Mm.
And if you do that every time that you sit down in your chair, then you're at least beginning of the work that you were doing in your thesis. I assume that you're doing your thesis sitting in a chair. I'm making an
Yeah,
assumption.
but a right assumption.
Okay, every time you sit down, you're sitting down in a much, much better state of mind. But as you were saying, that when you did practice it, it wasn't enough to bring the tension away. And the whole point of doing the exercise was to allow that tension to drain away.
Yeah, I guess I expect too much or something like that because there's all this stuff streaming in when I do it, like all the personal stuff that's going on right now, and I kind of expect it to go away for, I don't know, then at least 2 minutes or something like that. But
No,
it streams in, and
yeah, right. And when it does, you'll say, wait a minute, I can do something else now. Let me relax and get rid of this tension and get rid of that stuff and come to a state of well being and homeostasis. Because when you're in a state of joy, in a state of satisfaction and feeling successful, then really you don't have any personal problems. It's only when you're thinking about personal problems do you have any personal problems.
yeah, sure. When I want them to be gone, I have them.
Exactly. When they're
Yeah,
on your mind, they're a problem. So the fact is that every time that you're thinking about them, you recreate a problem that doesn't exist.
yeah,
So the only problem with it is that you've got it on your mind and you let it be there. When in fact we could do a little anapanasati here. We could say, be gone, problems. I don't have any problems right now. We don't have problems. Let's not have any right now. Let's be kind to ourselves. Let's stop kicking ourselves with these problems and then having the pity party. Ah, look how bad you feel with all of these problems I just thought up for you. And so it's kind of an internal dialogue. And so the better dialogue is a nurturing dialogue. Never mind those problems.
okay. And it
It's
could.
this.
Oh, it's really snowing. And it could be a dialogue, like a real dialogue, like not how to say, uh, yeah, when there is. Wait a second. Yeah, and you can use all this dialogue stuff to, for example, there comes something up, and there's this, yeah, you're a loser again, and then you just tell yourself, I don't know, you're not, I don't know, you whatever deserve to be happy or whatever, and you can really talk inside your head to yourself like that,
Mhm.
and that helps. Or is it more like, yeah, thinking? I how to explain, like, or just having the attitude and then just sitting down and breathing.
Well, the attitude is the attitude of a winner or the attitude of the loser. The loser is your default position.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have to make a change intentionally to throw that switch from the loser's default position to uh, the winner's position because it's not the default yet. The default is the loser's position because you've been well practiced at that. Think about it like this in the sense of every time that you boot up, you boot up into the default position. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that you have to throw the switch to go into the luxury position instead of the default position. And we have to remember to do that. This is what's called sati. To remember, to remember. And so this is why I recommend that you go back to that um, sitting down to remember and use that as an anchor so that every time that you sit down, you get yourself into a state of balance, peace, restfulness, free from tension, free from worry, free from fear or anxiety, and come to a state that, wow, things are really nice right now. And if well skilled, you can do that in 5 seconds. Some people, it takes 10 minutes, but you're beyond the 10-minute phase. You're down there into a minute or two. But it will take a minute or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you can brag to yourself, look how easy I can get myself into a good place.
Yeah. When I started out, like when we had the first calls, we had this everything's fine attitude, like everything is safe, nothing's attacking me, and all this.
And here
But
you have been beating yourself to death with a thesis.
but right now it doesn't feel strong enough. Like when I tell myself, yeah, everything is fine, everything is safe, there's this constant dialogue, like two people fighting, pushing against it. No, everything is not fine. Like this is shit, and this is shit, and this is shit. So don't
Yes,
lie to
I
yourself.
know. I know. I know. It comes with the territory you were born in. It's the culture. The reason why Germany is so high class sophisticated is because the Germans are very good at nitpicking. And if they would stay the nitpicking in their technology, we're going to continue to have BMWs and Mercedes and very high class automobiles. Unfortunately, when you nitpick at a human being, they wind up being assholes. And when you teach them how to nitpick it themselves, then they have pity parties and are assholes. I know, I'm not the German version of asshole, I'm the American version. And it comes by being very critical.
Yeah,
So the very thing that built technology destroys the human soul. What the human needs is nurturing. And here we are being critical all the time.
yeah,
And so this is the stage that the Buddha talks about. Anapanasati is step 10 is to keep gladdening the mind. Keep gladdening the mind. Tell yourself everything is okay, but you got to believe it too. And so you can do the various things that we would talk about as wisdom is look, whatever happens with that thesis, you're going to survive.
yeah,
The dean's not going to grab your thesis and shove it down your throat literally because you screwed it up. He may laugh at you, and that's about the most terrible thing that can happen is you get laughed at until you learn how good laughter is, and then you'll say, "Bring it on." Okay, so in this regard, we're saying everything really is safe. You really are safe, Marcel. You
yeah,
live in a very safe country. And if you feel safe and secure while you're doing your thesis, more than likely you'll pass. It's when we're full of tension and uptight that we
Yeah.
generally don't do such a good job at it.
Yeah, I mean, I already passed, so.
Well, how did I know that? I thought, the intellectual was that you don't know yet, but sure you do. It been too long. So, now that you passed in retrospect, was all the tension and anxiety about passing actually worth it?
No,
Did
it
it
was.
help?
No.
No.
It's just the way I know how to fuel myself, how to motivate myself in situations like that.
Exactly. So, this is what we're talking about in the sense of the old habits. We fall back into the default position of worry. We have to find a new default position. And so, take this new default position every time you sit down. Take a load off. And when I'm talking about take a load off, that means take the tension away. Allow yourself to breathe until you really are relaxed. Which means that we want to do this many times a day. Every time you sit down in a chair, 5, 10, 15, 20 times a day. The interesting thing is that as you begin to practice this more, you won't be moving a lot. You'll be sitting in your chair more. So people who were starting this practice at 50 times a day because they're doing it so often, they got good at it, and because they did, they're not getting up so often. And so now they're down to 20. And so this is a way that we can give to get started again.
Hmm.
Is with not with the commitment of sitting down and working really hard at a meditation practice, noting or whatever like that,
Mm.
but rather we're talking about bringing sati as to the fore as many times a day as we can. So even when the Buddha says, um, go to a forest or go to a tree or to a pile of straw or to an empty hut and sit down under the tree cross-legged and bring mindfulness to the floor for all we're doing is just substituting the chair at your desk for that,
Hmm. Yeah.
and
Okay.
go and do a bit of anapanasati. Every time that you sit down, you're going to take a moment to breathe and relax and go through the various stages to the point that you come up with the satisfaction and the feeling of success of I can handle this.
Okay.
I can handle this. No worries, mate. I can do this. And like I said, this may take you a couple of minutes every time that you sit down. But the more you do it, it's going to cut it in half, and pretty soon you can do it in a minute.
Mm.
Then you can do it in 30 seconds. Okay, so this is keep practicing at it because it's worthwhile. This is of great fruit, so the sutta says.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess kind of a habit as well. Like,
Uh-huh. And in a way, you already knew all of this anyway. I don't even know why you call me.
yeah. Okay.
Except for the pep talk. And that is that you get my energy. So while I'm up and joyful and practicing anapanasati, talking to you and gladdening the mind, it works. And so, in that regard, while you're having your pity party, why don't you say, if I call Dhammarato, he can get me out of my pity party right away?
yeah.
But oh no, when we're in that pity party, Murphy's Law is there. When we need it most, it's when it's going to fail. That's why we have to keep practicing Anapanasati.
Yeah. As you said, I already heard all this before, but it's always nice to call.
Well, let's do it this way. Can I get a commitment from you that you're going to start practicing the chair?
Yeah, when I remember, I do.
All right. Are you going to make a point of remembering to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the dedication or the commitment. I will do this. I know I can do it.
It's always
Determined.
sitting down, right? Every
Strong
time.
determination that every time I sit down, I'm really going to sit down. I'm going to relax completely. The one, surprisingly enough, that's even harder to remember is standing up, because when we normally get up out of the chair, we get up walking
Yeah.
because we're going someplace. We've already gotten the intention. That's why we got it. And some people will begin to practice this that we've talked about, and they'll recognize that they got out of the chair without having a clear definition of why they got out of the chair. Maybe they were just feeling restless and
Yeah.
are not even watching why they get up.
Yeah, I know this. Just to get up.
Yeah. It's almost like we get up because we're now feeling aversion to the computer. We're feeling aversion. We think it's the computer. And if I can get away from the computer for a moment, okay.
Yeah.
And so we get up without actually having a clear intention of doing anything. We're, in a way, it's like we're escaping as opposed to going to. We're not chasing now, we're running away or escaping. So that's also wise to know that. What's going on here? Why did I get up out of the chair? It's because I wanted something or because I didn't like something? Did I do it out of restlessness or whatnot? And so the real interesting technique here, unlike the chair, when you sit down in a chair, you just sit down. Then you have to, or as you do, you remember to do that. But this one, getting up and out of the chair, has a really strong anchor to it. And that strong anchor is that when you stand up to get out of the chair, you stand. Most people, when they get out of the chair, they're already walking.
Yeah, sure.
All right. The movement out of the chair is forward position. There's a whole different way of getting out of a chair to get up just to stand. Okay.
Yeah.
And we do that from time to time, like at church. We're sitting in the pew and then they start to sing and everybody stands up. Okay, that's one time of doing it. Or if you're in the military and you're sitting down and the lieutenant comes in, then we stand up. But in ordinary life, we don't stand up. We get out of the chair moving, get out of the chair running.
So that's the point as well. Like first standing, taking deep breaths, getting into the state, then walking.
Then walking with the intention of where am I going? What is my intention? Why did I leave the chair? I'm leaving my nice, beautiful, comfortable chair that I do Anapanasati and it feels so wonderful and I'm so relaxed. Why would I possibly get out of my chair? And so that investigation of investigating why do we get out of the chair, and then when we do come back to the chair, oh, finally I'm home. Oh, finally I can relax. I can take a load off my feet and I can take a load off my heart also. And come home and be completely relaxed. Most people, when they go home, they still really don't go home. They don't feel at home when they get home.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that opportunity that every time we sit down, we're really at home and we can feel at home. We've arrived at the destination, no place to go. We don't owe anybody anything. There's nothing to do but just relax.
Sounds good.
And we remember to do that over and over and over again now, every time we sit down. And if we
Okay.
forget, then it's hard to recognize. But this issue of standing before we walk, that's a really heavy anchor. People will start to wake up. About 10 steps after they leave the chair, they say, darn it, I was going to stand before I walked. And it'll take a week or two to do it because this is such a change in the way that you've been relating to that chair.
Yeah, makes sense.
Been taking it for granted, I guess, without recognizing what we're doing. And so using these as issues of sati to wake up, to wake up, to wake up. And so the chair is a really, really good thing for waking up if you are determined that you're going to do this practice every time I sit down in the chair.
Yeah, it's a determination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wasn't there.
And that determination comes from the recognition of how valuable it is to continue to do this practice.
Yeah, that's what I have to get back. That was what faded away. And I think when I get this back, then yeah, back on track.
Exactly. Actually, that's a kind of funny way of saying it. We're you got on track with that thesis. Now it's time to get off of that track and sit down beside it and stop all this tracking.
Okay. Yeah, nice. We'll try that again.
Well, Marcel, it's been really good to see you again. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah. One thing was I was looking into all this Thailand stuff and like all the preparations that has to be done, like getting vaccines and visum and all of that. And you told me that you had some students who already visited you or went to a wat in Thailand. Who you know? Do you happen to have the Skype of them or anything? So I just can get in contact with them for an exchange.
Yes, I will send you Chun. But many people have been here before. Noah has been. No, wait a minute. Noah hasn't been here. Dad has been here. Noah has been here. Greg has been here. Tim has been here. Tun is here now. Danny has been here. Pablo has been here. Jerry has been here. Ben has been here. No, John. Yeah, so there's been guys who have been here. A lot of guys have been through here.
Yeah, I'd love to talk, like just exchange with them, like I don't know, just have a chat. How it was, how it is, how they did all the visum and
Okay.
vaccine stuff and whatever there's attached to all of this planning stuff.
As far as vaccine goes, I don't think Tun's going to know anything. But in fact, all of the guys that I have mentioned were here before the COVID. No one's been here since the COVID got
No, I
started.
meant like I checked like rabies and
No, no.
malaria
The
and
only thing that anybody's interested in now is the COVID. That I've been in and out of Thailand over the years many times, and I've also been to countries that required it. Saudi Arabia is really, really big on it.
okay.
In fact, Saudi Arabia is intentionally big on it in the sense that they require shots that are hard to find because nobody gives them anymore. Wow, what a big, heavy duty job it was for me to get what was it? A smallpox vaccination because they just weren't giving
Smallpox.
them, and just weren't giving them in California.
Okay,
The
strange.
smallpox had been more or less eradicated,
Yeah, I
but
just have
because
to
Saudi
quickly.
Arabia,
Pocken. Okay. Yeah, I just had to check for the German name, so I know what it is.
okay,
Okay, small. Yeah.
all right, so smallpox is in some places in Africa, and people from those places would go to Saudi Arabia. So for them, they should have it. But Saudi Arabia just has a flat out law. Anybody come to Saudi Arabia's got to have all of these various shots that are really hard to locate. Some places where they don't have that problem at all. So I know all about that. Been there, done that. Thailand, nada. The only thing that's an issue now is the new coronavirus vaccine.
Yeah.
And the question is, will someone who has had a vaccine be able to get through without having to jump through all of the new hoops that they have put in place? Okay.
Yeah, and the thing
Uh,
here is in Germany that there's a stage program of getting the vaccine to the people, and I'm not sick, I'm not a social worker, so
hmm
I'm at
hmm
the end of the chain. So if Thailand requires it, this will take some time. Um,
uh,
yeah.
like I was about to say, the requirement actually is that um, you have to do a 2 week quarantine after you arrive. And that 2 week quarantine has to be done in a designated facility. So
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't then go quarantine at Wat Suan Mok because that's not a quarantine site. And the places that are designated are generally fairly expensive hotels. So
Mm-hmm.
you'd be paying a rate of $25 to $50 a night,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very high price because here on the island, most people get away with $5 to $7 a night.
Okay.
So that's the issue is the quarantine. Other than that, with that, you get a really good visa. But the talk is that soon enough, when the vaccines get out and about, that people who have had a vaccine then don't have to go through the quarantine period.
Yeah, the visa stuff you mentioned, the only one I found is the extended tourist visa, which is 90 days, and then you have to leave every 30 days a country, and then
hmm
you can get back in, something like that.
Right. What you need to look at is a non-immigrant visa, not a
No,
tourist visa.
non-immigrant visa. Okay, you wrote it down.
Okay, so the non-immigrant visa is what you need to look into. Uh, Normally, it's the non-immigrant O, not a
Non-immigrant. Oh,
B. O, not a B for business because you're not doing business.
yeah.
And um, we might later eventually qualify for an E, which is an education.
Okay.
But the O visa is the old standard visa, and it's for retirement or any long term.
Mm-hmm.
The visa I have is an O visa, and it has to be. There's some restrictions we'll talk about later,
Okay.
but that's the big kind of visa that you want. But they may put a lot of restrictions on what you need to do to get that visa. Like, can
Mm-hmm.
you prove that you've got 30,000 US dollars in the bank?
I can't.
Well, I don't know what the requirements are now, but
Yeah.
for the retirement visa, I have to show them every time I get the visa. I've got to show them not just that I've got it in the bank, but they want to see every page of the passbook and a letter from the bank and 3 months of the from the bank of the to prove that 30,000 has been there the whole time.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. visa
They're
stuff.
really, really tough on it once you get into the country, but I don't know how it's going to be to get the visa. I have heard that they're actually putting that restriction on those kind of visas. So you might also want to look at an e-visa for the education because that's also a possibility, at least for later.
Yeah, and that's why I just wanted to talk of these people who already done it, just to exchange, have some
I
experience.
don't
So
know. You might, in fact, talk to Tun about what kind of visa he's on and whatnot. That would be good. I don't know what it is.
so
He's up to.
if these people want, you can just give them my Skype or give me them their Skype or
I'm going to give you his Skype.
okay. So he's in Thailand right now.
He's in Thailand right now. Let me pull this up.
And where is he? What is he doing right now? Like
If he's wise, he's hanging out and not doing much of anything except avoiding people asking him to do stuff. Uh, Let me send it to you after because I'm
yeah,
not
sure.
seeing what I can see. Add files and oh, maybe it's contact. That's what I wanted for. Okay, yeah, that's just what I'm looking for. I can't find it, so I'll look it up later.
Yeah, sure.
It just starts off with more people, but I know that his. Wait a minute, maybe I'm spelling it wrong. Yeah, okay. Now I've got it. So there you go.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, he's a resident at Dom Kiem.
Okay, that's what.
That's Dom Kiem is the what that Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and Achan Po built for Santikaro, specifically for Westerners.
Okay. But it's not the
But
one you told me that it's so crowded, because you told me one name that's so crowded to like stay away
oh,
from.
that's what Panana Chat.
Okay.
Okay. But Wat Dam Kiem is actually quite deserted in the sense that they've got about 10 people there and they've got facilities for 40.
Okay. Yeah, nice. And I just hit him up and have a chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I finished my bachelor thesis. Yeah. Working
All
at the
right. Yeah,
moment.
we'll chat him up and see what he's got. Because he's more into that kind of stuff than I am. I just sit here on the porch
Yeah.
and deal with a retirement visa occasionally.
Okay, nice.
Well, it's really good to see you again.
Yeah, yeah.
Go do some sitting, and I'm talking about a chair this time.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
See you soon.
Yeah, exactly.